president saying that he's not going to release the man that was mistakenly deported?
Yeah.
Right, but the SCOTUS ruling says that to bring him back. Do you know much about that? Because I'm gonna be honest, like I this particular story, I haven't really been following that well.
Okay, the man from Maryland was mistakenly, supposedly picked up by ICE, and he was deported, even though he had some kind of permission to be here in the States. He had, I think it was an asylum or something. Now he was, supposedly he was from a gang. He had the tattoo, and that's why he was.
What, the MS-13?
Yeah, I believe it was the MS-13.
So like
allegedly.
Was it like he was in the gang and then he quit the gang?
Yeah, I believe he did quit the gang, and now he had. I believe he's got 3 children. In Maryland, and he was picked up and he was taken to El Salvador, and now they don't want to return him, even though the Supreme Court has ruled against Trump. You know, the Supreme Court they say he has to return him. The president from El Salvador, he met up with Trump, and I guess they discussed that also, and he's not giving him up either. So.
All right, well, let's hear what he has to say on it.
Let's hear the question from this very low-rated anchor.
I think he's referring.
It's Collins, isn't it?
Which one is it?
The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador.
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, 2 courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS-13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs. Yeah. If they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So it's up to him.
And you are doing a great job. Thank you.
You're doing a great job.
Also respond to that question, because it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant.
Yeah, always. They ask everything with that
slant. They don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you?
He killed me with that.
No, I love it.
As Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens.
Yeah, who do they think they are?
2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So we had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here.
Yeah, that's an international incident.
And the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful, and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador, who again is a member of MS-13,
yeah, that's how
which is, I'm sure you understand, rapes little
do whatever
girls,
you want.
murders
Who cares
women,
if we go
murders
to war?
children,
Just
is
do
engaged
it.
in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
Exactly.
Damn. He's saying he's a bad hombre.
Yeah.
Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
in our favor.
In our favor, against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual, at El Salvador's sole discretion, was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time. No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen
So he'll just be
of
bouncing.
El Salvador.
Yeah, bouncing
But
back
you know
and
what?
forth.
Somebody's paying for that trip.
Oh yeah, and it's always the taxpayers.
It's crazy how many trips I paid for and haven't taken.
No, you haven't taken one.
Did you know that I paid for a ton of first class trips to AOC? Never took one.
There you go. You're paying for her first class trips to fight the oligarchs.
The oligarchs.
It's like I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like
He's not going to do it.
I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
Yeah, so it's kind of like limbo. It's like, look, he belongs
We're
here.
not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have criminals.
This dude is kind of joke.
I mean, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people.
He just laughs too. He's thinking, fuck, dude.
This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States.
I love how now Rubio. Everybody's chiming
back
in.
to their country of origin, except for Venezuela, that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell
And
you
that's
this.
the Tren de Aragua problem,
the
right?
foreign
It's
policy of the
crazy how
United
you got to
States
break
is
it down
conducted
so many
by the
times to
President
these
of the United
people and they
States,
still
not
don't
by a court.
understand.
These
no court
people.
in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple.
Yeah,
End of story.
And that's what the Supreme Court held, by the way, to Marco's point. The Supreme Court said exactly what Marco said, that no court has the authority to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. We won a case 9-0, and people like CNN are portraying it as a loss, as usual, because they want foreign terrorists in the country who kidnap women and
at a
children.
certain point,
But
shouldn't they
President
be like
Trump,
held
his
accountable for
policy
They
is
should.
that
When is it
foreign
gonna
terrorists
happen?
illegally get expelled from the country, which, by the way, is a 90-10 issue.
Like the only person with sense on CNN is
You
Scott.
said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be
Scott.
returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago, and they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that? Why do you go over and over, and that's why
All the
nobody
time,
watches you
yeah.
anymore. You know, you have no credibility. Please go ahead.
I love it. I love it.
There he goes
Yo,
again.
he just complete. You know, I'm gonna tell you. One thing I do love about Trump though is like, I think the only times that Biden ever made me laugh was when he like fell off the steps
When
or
he
fell
was-
off the
his
bike.
gaps.
Yeah, you know, it's all the gaps. But like with Trump, it's just like he's such a smart ass. I love that shit.
Yeah.
He never takes crap from any of the media.